Okay, welcome to the Voncast show, and today I got with me the co-script coordinator of PCN, Charline. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. Happy spring break.
Oh, thank you. I've been enjoying it a lot.
How's your spring break going?
It's been raining a lot, so I've just been spending a lot more time at home, which I like a lot because I'm always out working or at school or just doing things outside of school. So it's nice to just finally be home, resting, just chilling.
Right. Anything you're watching on Netflix?
Oh my god, everyone asks me that. I actually never binge watch. I'm not a binge watcher.
Good for you, good for
I
you.
know, people always ask like, oh, are you like a binge watcher or like a movie watcher? I'm more of a movie marathoner. But there's a show that I just recently watched, like I finished the first season called Lovesick. It's a British show.
Okay.
And it's an interesting show. Everyone should watch it, it's good.
Everyone should watch it.
Yeah.
Do you watch, what's that called? Sherlock?
I know of it.
It's really good. It's British.
Yeah,
it's British.
it's British,
It's
so
British.
if you're into that, then you'll be
Really
into
good.
Lovesick.
Lovesick, is that like a comedy, romantic comedy?
It's-
Sounds like a romantic.
It's like romantic / dark comedy.
Ooh.
Well, not really dark, but it's kind of like sexual.
Like 50 Shades of Grey dark, or a lot darker?
Not that dark.
Okay.
It's basically this guy, he goes to get like an exam and he finds out he has like an STI and then he has to like retrace all his old relationships.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's what makes it interesting because it's a different girl every spring.
By the way, speaking of which, you can go to CSUN. If you go to CSUN, Klotz Health Center offers
Yes.
free STI, STD, HIV testing, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So get checked. I need to have a spring break.
Do it.
Consent.
You got time.
Consent, protection. Yeah, all right. That's so random off topic. Okay, so introductions. Tell us about yourself, like where you came from, what school you go to, your major.
Awesome. So I like to claim myself as an LA native, even though I really only lived in downtown LA
Okay.
for the first maybe 9 years of my life.
Still.
Yeah, I was born in Chinatown in like the downtown LA area, and I frequented a lot of like downtown LA proper, so like
Okay.
Hollywood and Highland, and all those different areas, all the different ethnic
Right.
like enclaves. Yeah, like
Who took
enclaves.
AS classes?
Yeah. And then I'd actually moved out to the San Fernando Valley, kind of like the Panorama City, Van Nuys area, when I was in maybe the 4th grade or something like that.
Right.
So I've just always been surrounded by, or in areas that are predominantly like people of color, usually like Filipinos, Filipino American.
Cool. Yeah, I stayed in the Highland Park with my mom for a little bit in Eagle Rock.
Yeah.
It's super nice, but I've noticed that over time it got super gentrified.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely different now. Whenever I go back, I always try to get like this whole nostalgia trip. Like, oh yeah, I used to go here to that like parking lot and play with my friends, but now it's an apartment.
Yeah.
Or it's a new parking structure. So
Right.
it's weird going back because it's like a taste of home, but it's also how different it is now.
Yeah. I mean, I can say one thing with gentrification, it's good in a sense that I know there's a lot of gay activity in the 90s.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's a lot safer, but the downside is that, people are getting displaced because of
Oh
rent.
yeah.
Mom and pop stores are going out of business. So it's a pro and con to things.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, so Chinatown, I went to Chinatown, I got kicked out for filming a music video there.
Oh, for real?
It's private property.
Yeah.
So, I didn't really realize, but luckily we finished right before they kicked us out.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you're from LA, you moved to San Fernando Valley, Van Nuys. What school do you go to?
I currently go to Cal State Northridge.
Mhm.
I'm a senior.
Awesome.
I'm like a 4th year. I'm not graduating anytime
Okay.
soon. I actually recently switched my major to art history.
Nice.
Yeah, I was a cell molecular bio major, so it's a complete
Cell molecular.
complete 180.
That sounds like something I'd hear in Ant-Man.
Yeah, cell molecular,
That's
all
something-
those like really smart Marvel characters, like all these scientists.
Wow.
And stuff. Yeah.
What made you want to switch?
It was like one of those cases where I've always known that I wanted to go into something that had like cultural substance behind it, but I went into cell molecular bio because that was quote unquote the smart choice, or that's what my parents wanted,
I agree, yeah.
So I started out in cell, and then after my 3rd year, that was after my 2nd year of participating in PCN with FASA, that's when I kind of realized, I'm not really participating in stuff that's in my major. I'm not really talking or making connections with people in the field of science. I'm really talking to people, not saying that scientists aren't actual people, but I'm reaching out to people in communities that aren't really catered to or reached out to.
Right.
And I'm really connecting with the cultural clubs here. So I thought, if I always wanted to go into this field of art history or culture, the preservation of culture, and I'm doing everything outside of my field to go into it, then it just makes sense to just pursue that instead.
I totally 100%
I agree.
wholeheartedly agree. What did your parents think? They said, hey,
Oh.
you know, I want to be art history major. I want to drop this major that could potentially get me like a really well-paying job. It's stable, recession-proof.
Yeah,
What did they say?
Oh man, it was crazy because I had actually brought up the idea to them when I was a sophomore. I wanted to switch to Asian American Studies. Yeah, you know.
It's cool.
But my dad, he's very, very traditional, and he was really, really against it. He was just like, oh, there's no future in it. And I remember there was one time he was so mad. He was like, oh, because I want to work in a museum.
Right.
And this thing just stuck with me. He was just like, hey, you can work in a museum when you build your own. So I was like, oh, dang, that's kind of harsh. And my mom, she was, if anything, she was my number one supporter because she herself, she wanted to be in theater. Like, she was really the entertainer.
Right.
But she was, like, quote unquote, forced to go into business management. And she didn't want to see, like, a repeat of what had happened to her, happened to her own child. And it wasn't until a year after, I actually told my parents that I'm going to switch on my dad's birthday. And everyone was like, whoa, that's really risky. That's your dad. But he took it, or both my parents took it a lot better than what I expected. They were really calm, and they were like, okay, you know, I want to learn more about what you're going into. And they were a lot more open-minded than I had thought. They were actually asking me questions about what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, like, that's so cool your mom understood. You know, I think that, I mean, all of our parents, I'm sure, worked hard to get here. Most of them came from the Philippines. They sacrificed their lives, what they could have been for us to get here. And I would think that they want us to pursue what we want to pursue.
Yeah.
You know, so good for them and good for you having the courage. That's tough, you know, especially if you live with parents and there's such high expectations, you know.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We Filipino parents, well, most of them want us to be nurses.
Oh, yeah, I've had that conversation before.
How many aunts and uncles do we have that are aunts and or nurses, some doctors? It's great, but it's great money, don't get me wrong.
Oh, definitely.
But if your passion's not into it, you're there for maybe 3 days out of the 4, 12-hour shifts. Once again, if it's your passion to help people in that sense, it's great. But if you're not, I think you resent yourself, maybe resent your parents. So how did you get into FASA? Because you were a cell molecular biology major, some Iron Man stuff. Yeah.
So it was actually, it's so funny because when I was in high school, I knew of CSUN FASA because I went to a local high school around here. And then, oh my god, it's so ironic because everyone had told me like, oh yeah, when you go to college, it's gonna be super cliquey, like don't join it because it's gonna be like this and like that. So I'd actually avoided it my whole like first year. I was never in it in my first year. And then, what was it, the fall before I had joined, because I joined in the spring, I took a class with Professor Aquino here.
Hey, Alan,
like,
what's up, man?
I know, he's my kuya. So, he was teaching a class called Filipino American Filipino American History and Experiences. So I had taken that class, and more than like 75% of the class at least was part of FASA. And I was like, what is this? And then, you know, during the class, they were all advertising PCN, like all these different workshops they're doing. And that was just my only exposure. And then Kuya Alan, he had brought it up to me many times before. Like, I always go to his office hours just to talk about things that I want to talk about. And I just never brought it in myself to go to a meeting. And it was funny because I'd actually gone to the gym one random day in the next semester. And my friend from high school, like a really close friend of mine, Francisco Yu, he ran into me and my other friend Jeremy, and he's like, hey, you should join this club. It's called CSUN FASA. And it's funny because this guy's Korean. So we were like, what are you doing in this Filipino club? And he's like, just check it out. Just come to the first meeting. And then it wasn't until the third meeting that I actually stayed. I was so overwhelmed. Like, everyone was like so loud and like rambunctious and stuff like that. But they're really friendly, really hospitable. And I thought that's a big part of what not only makes them the Filipino club, but what makes me Filipino is that we have this ingrained like sense of hospitality and kindness just from the first time you meet them. So that's what kind of kept me hooked, and I got really involved with. And that was a semester that PCN was really big. That's when it was in session, like the whole practices and all that. So I tried to make myself more involved in that. I was actually part of the costume committee that semester.
Cool. I'm really paranoid. I think it's not recording. Let me double check.
All right, no, sure.
I want to think. I want to say it is.
Is it?
Yep.
All right, awesome.
Okay, intermission break over. Okay, so FASA. So for those who don't know, what is PCN? I witnessed it, but I want you to say it in your.
All right.
Yeah.
So PCN stands for Filipino Cultural Night, and it's a stage production held by CSUN FASA, or California State University Northridge Filipino American Student Association. Every school has their own version of a PCN,
Right.
and they would name it like FCN, PACN, but essentially it's the same thing. It's a stage production, and it's a combination of a theatrical play and cultural dances from the Philippines, and it's meant to not only for like members of that club to embrace their Filipino or Filipino backgrounds, but also to share it with their local community and essentially the rest of the world.
Right, right. That's awesome. I went to the one last year. It was my first one.
Oh, awesome.
I was blown away. I was the 7 p.m. show.
Oh, nice. It's the
God.
best show, honestly, in
Right.
my opinion. I love the later shows.
Yeah, the story was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I met Jason. I kept calling him Rex for a little bit.
Oh,
afterwards.
yeah.
The dances were great. The storyline was superb. I was blown away. Wow. And
I'm glad.
yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Speaking of this year,
Mm-hmm.
what's being the co-script coordinator? Can you give us a preview of what this year's story is about?
All right, so this year, me and Dominic Argana, who is this year's PCN coordinator, we're actually co-coordinating the script. In past years, every year it's different. It's not like one person is set to choose a story. It's ultimately up to the PCN coordinator of that year. For example, one year it was like PCN coordinator had 2 script coordinators that wrote the script, and they were helping her combine it with the dances. And then the previous year was a PCN coordinator and a script coordinator, and they had both worked together with 2 like assistant script coordinators. This year, what Dom had done was that he put out an application. It's actually a really funny story. It's not really, really funny, but I had never intended to be script coordinator or co-script coordinator. It was the spring that he had been elected PCN coordinator. Was the spring that I switched my major. So I was like, I'm gonna focus on me, like I'm gonna focus on my upper divs and all that stuff. And one summer when I was taking a class, Dom hit me up and he was like, hey, I noticed you didn't fill out the co-script coordinator application. Like I think it'd be really cool, like even if you're not guaranteed, just try it out. And the cool thing is that a lot of our ideas just aligned.
Right.
And I thought it was just like the perfect partnership. And we had worked together on FASA board anyway.
Right.
So that's how it came to be. And our story is really about the whole overall story is identity and Filipino American and Filipino experiences with mental health issues.
Interesting.
Yeah, because
Wow.
I thought that I personally think that mental health is an issue that isn't normally addressed in our community.
Correct.
Not necessarily just in Filipino and Filipino American, but I think of Asian background in general. So I thought, if I were given this opportunity, it's a great platform. It's a show that's given for free to the community for them to really see the things that we're concerned about. And the cool thing was that Dom was almost like 100% completely aligned with that vision, So, and he thinks that mental health issues, especially for us as like young adults in college, it's never really addressed to our families. I mean, we address it to, like our friends or whatever. So to bring it onto the stage where we know our families are watching, where the people that our loved ones that we don't even tell our deepest, darkest secrets to, exposed to the world, I thought that was just a really great opportunity for that.
Right. Yeah, I do agree that in Asia and Asian cultures, it's not as prevalent, it's not as brought up as in America. I know that a lot of families in Asia who have kids who have disabilities or mental challenges, they come out to America because here it's treated more seriously. It's more accepted in society as opposed to many Asian countries. But that's great. That's a really cool take on it. So this one's about that. What does PCN consist of? Is it going to be kind of similar to last year where you have dances and plays? Right?
Yes, it's essentially the same skeleton, where it's a play with cultural dances embedded into it. I guess the only difference this year is that instead of introducing it as last year's did. I don't know if you remember how last year did it, but like let's say there was a fiesta and that's how they put it into it, or there was like a love story, so they put a dance into it. How we were doing it is that we're matching the mood of the specific scene to the dance.
Okay.
Yeah, and this year we have 17 dances.
17.
Yeah, and that's usually like a norm, honestly.
Really?
Like around 15 to 17 dances is the norm for every PCN.
Wow.
Or for at least for FASA's PCN.
That's a lot. Where do you get these dances from?
Alright, so since this is our 33rd year.
33rd
yeah,
year.
so 33rd PCN.
Wow.
There's a lot, there's history. There's a lot of people who came before us that did all these PCNs. Even Professor Alan, he was there for some of the first few PCNs when it wasn't even in, like on the stage that it is now, which is the Plaza del Sol Performance Center. And it's like, we usually reach out to alumni who have taught in previous years or who have danced the dances from previous years to come out and teach. And it's really, it's like for free. They're willing to come out and to help teach what they know and to like pass it on to further generations. And we also reach out to Kayamanan Nanahi. It's a Filipino folk art non-profit organization based in LA. And they're known for teaching cultural dances. They have workshops, they teach classes on cultural material, and we really reach out to them because they, through anthropological research, they say that they take dances from the village to the stage. So they translate it appropriately so that the meaning behind the dances are translated properly onto stage. So that it's not appropriated by us, and it's not like completely stylized to the point where we're just making it or doing it to look cool. So aside from getting the help from alumni, we're really getting the help from this folk arts organization that really like keeps us in check. And make sure that we're doing the right thing for the right reasons.
I think that's really good you have that, because even though we are Filipino and you're in a Filipino club, there is a chance where you could mess up the actual dance or misinterpret it.
Oh yeah.
So that's really cool that you have those people to kind of guide you through that.
Yeah, actually one crazy thing, I remember the year before, the last year, I was in charge of the props. And a lot of research that goes into that is material culture. And there's this one dance that we had from the mountain region of the Philippines. It's called Balangbang. And traditionally it's played with gongs. And in the past, apparently schools have done it with like the tops of like tin cans or something. And then when I brought it up to them, they were like, "Oh no, that's not culturally appropriate. That's almost disrespectful." Obviously it's like use whatever you have around you, but you want it to be as culturally appropriate as possible. So what we had to do was we actually took old like tinikling sticks, so old bamboo sticks, and we had to chop them up to make the actual things that they play with during the dance. So it's a rhythmic dance. So yeah, I was so. Because I simply thought, oh, it's just you need to find the props to play with it, but there's so much more that goes into a dance than just the music and the steps. It's even the material, the stuff you wear, and the makeup you wear. It's crazy.
I noticed in the previous PCN, everyone was on point with the costumes, so authentic. Where do you find these? I mean, do you make them? Do you go online, or are they kind of passed down? It's a combination of all of those. So like there's dances, like the mountain dances where the females wear a skirt. And the mountain dances and their costumes are known for their intricate embroidery. So what we try to do is that it just so happens when we have members that go to the Philippines over the summer before PCN, we kind of ask them, oh hey, can you like try grabbing this thing for us? Because I mean, if it's from the Philippines, even more so, like better to have on stage. Mostly those are the ones that are passed down. And then every year we have a costume coordinator, and they're in charge of doing the material research with the costumes, strictly with the costumes. And essentially they're also the ones that make the costumes. There are some dances where they have handmade, like hand-sewn costumes. Yeah, the first year I was in, oh my god, I remember there were days I was just like on the sewing machine, just sewing the dresses for some of the cultural dances. Yeah, so it's a mixture of both, and not only do we get, it's a lot of like internet research, but we also, refer to Kayamanan Nanahi just to make sure that, is this alright for us to use? Are these colors alright for us to use? These stitching patterns? So yeah, a lot of that. The only thing that isn't passed down is, I don't know if you know the dances that have a loincloth. It's called the bahag. Oh, dudes.
Yeah, obviously you don't pass it.
But
I mean, everything else though, it's really just either passed down or made.
Wow. See, that sounds almost like a whole class in and of its own.
Oh yeah.
I
it
mean, the
definitely
research,
is.
the practice, the time. How are y'all able to? Well, mind y'all, y'all go to college.
Oh yeah.
How is everyone able to balance all this out?
It's
Like what? I don't know how y'all do it. I mean, I give y'all so much respect.
thank you.
The effort you put in, I see in the show, it correlates to how much practice and effort you put in. But how do people balance school, work, PCN?
Yeah, wow. It's hard to explain because it's almost like an individual experience. It's kind of, I always talk to Dom about this, but there's like this whole thing or the idea that we all experience the same thing, but just differently. May it be like emotions, feelings, mental health, like mental issues. And I feel like in this case, that's kind of what it's like. And it depends on how much you want to put into PCN and how much you want to get out of it.
Right.
So there's people like, for example, Dom, oh my God. Like his life ever since he was elected to be PCN coordinator, his life has been PCN. So since last spring, all the way through summer, winter, and up until now.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's definitely a struggle because he's working part-time, he's going to school full-time, and he's doing that. And then I would use myself as an example, like, I'm working almost 30 hours a week, and then I have school full-time, and then I'm doing Coast Guard coordinator, and then I'm trying to be more present, so I'm in at least 3 dances. And it depends with everyone. Like there's people who are freshmen and they dedicate a lot of their time to PCN because it's fun, it's a chance for them to learn, but also a chance for them to be with their friends. And I think that's when people learn how to balance their stuff. Because some of them, and there's people that I'm just naming all these different types of people that are participating. There's even alumni that come out and are teaching the dances, or there's alumni that are part of PCN, they're part of the dances. For example, I have one of my script members, he's actually an alumni. He graduated either last year or 2 years ago, and he's still coming back to help out. He's still being part of it. So I guess the balance is just how that individual is able to, kind of prioritize the things in their life. And we always emphasize that every practice. Yeah, even though you're part of CSUN, FASA's PCN, you're part of CSUN first. If you're in school here, you focus on your studies first. And, FASA's there to help you, to help to support you. So when you really are having trouble finding that balance between school, PCN, work, take a step back, reprioritize, and then figure out what you need to get done first. Because FASA's always going to be there.
Right.
And PCN is, I don't know how to explain it, but there's just, aside from it being a whole production, it's a whole learning experience. You learn more about yourself, not only culturally, but how you can handle things. Right. Socially and even emotionally.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. I guess that goes into my next question. When does PCN start practicing? When do they start, hey, we're gonna do this, who's coordinator, we're gonna meet this day. When does that start? Does that start winter break?
That starts the spring before. So it's the PCN that you saw last year was in the spring.
Yeah.
Right after that is when the new PCN coordinator is elected.
Wow.
And he's on board for that whole year, or they're on board for that whole year. And it's essentially up to them, but it's up to them to know or to figure out what dances they want to put in, who they want to coordinate it, when they're going to put time aside. So Dom, when he was elected, he had already had these dances in mind. He was like, oh, I'm set for this, and this.
Yeah.
And then over the summer, it was just him recruiting people to, be instructors, to be coordinators. And that's when he had reached out to me to be Coast Guard coordinator. And then the fall semester is, it's the school semester, so we're getting people to join the club, and it's really just to talk. We're barely scratching the surface of PCN, but in the background, there's people that are figuring out what dance moves they want to put in, figuring out the story that they want to put in. For example, I'm sure Dom, for the dance coordinators, he was contacting them. He was already going over the blocking and steps that he wanted them to do. Over the summer, Dom and I had met up almost routinely over the summer just at TNT, just talking about the script, writing a whole detailed outline. And then winter break is kind of when you start doing workshops to introduce for the next semester. And workshops, they would be the basic, tinikling, get to know this Filipino dance and introduce yourself to PCN. And then that opens up more avenues to different dances.
Right.
From different regions that no one even knew had dances. So it's workshops, and then people aren't permanently casted usually until the spring after. So that's when they choose the people that are going to be in specific dances. That's when the cast for the script is chosen. In our case, we chose our cast the winter before. So yeah.
So much planning.
It's a lot of planning. I don't know how Dom's able to do it.
It makes
It's
sense.
crazy.
Yeah. Wow. A whole year dedicated to, wow, that makes sense. I mean, there's so much to go up to like do and everything.
Oh yeah.
Can you go through what a typical PCN practice consists of? Like what time you guys meet? I know that y'all meet as late. It doesn't end as late now. It ends like around midnight.
Yeah. So in the past, it's been like the practices go on. Maybe the latest I've ever stayed for a practice was honestly like 2 in the morning.
Wow.
It goes on that late, but the thing that we wanted to change this year, and more specifically Dom, is that like a cast that's tired isn't going to perform well.
Right.
You know, so he wanted to end practices at the latest 11 p.m. So the usual day starts at 5 p.m. That's call time for everyone. Right now, since we're not putting on costumes or like makeup yet, it's just you have to be there at 5 p.m. and then we start with stretches, and it's basic stretches. People do some running if they have to, and then the first practice or warm up is we call it the basics.
Right.
And it's essentially how do I explain it? It's the positions in ballet mixed with the timing of waltz. And those are the basics to almost every single dance. Aside from like the actual dances that use it, like there's a suite called the Maria Clara suite, and they a lot of the dances are taken from Spanish dances that have roots in ballet or roots in waltz. But a lot of the movements that we use in it is where we refine our hand movements, we refine like our posture, and that's essentially what we use for every other dances, which is why we call it basics. And then after that warm up is when we get into the actual practice. And lately we've been focusing on cleaning up the dances, so certain days will be dedicated to certain dances, and then that'll go on until maybe around 9-ish, and then 9 is when we do a full run through of just dances.
Wow.
In the order that they're in the show. And that's where we're working on, our facials, like really being serious when we have to be serious, or smiling when we have to. And then after spring break, we're actually going to be combining both the script and the dance portion. And essentially that's usually the hardest part, because when you combine both of those together, you have to get the pacing right, the timing right. And then we also have stage hands that need to know when to run props on, when to run props off. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think that's the best part of PCA, because that's when everyone's really like getting into the whole like, oh, we have our hands in the game now, like it's only a month away. So.
Yeah, so I mean it's a month away for y'all.
Yeah.
Any practicing during spring break?
Yeah, see that's another thing that's different this year. For as long as I've known, there's been practice every spring break, every day of spring break. And I even remember last year when I was practicing, it was crazy. Like every day, like these people were obviously my closest friends because we see each other every day, even on break. But Dom, all these changes are really Dom's idea. He's being really, really innovative this year and really creative. And he thought that, it's unfair that we're all students, we all deserve a break at some point. And sometimes people burn out sometimes, not even just because of PCM, but because of, school, work, all these things piling up. So he was like, we all deserve a spring break, so we're not going to have practice over spring break. And his idea is that, when the biggest punishment to someone, aside from actually punishing them, is knowing that they can't deliver. So that's then he encourages people to tap into that whole mindset where it's like, even though you're on break, you still gotta be able to deliver. And when you're messing up, that's obviously something that means something. That means that you should be fixing up what you're doing, or like changing up your routine to see how you can better cater to yourself. So that's why I was glad. Oh my god, when I heard that we were gonna have spring break off, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
really?
It's so good. I mean, y'all need it for the days to come. Wow, that's so intense.
Yeah.
And that's so cool that everyone's so dedicated. I mean, the show obviously it gathers a bunch of people, and it's crazy because 33 years people keep coming back and wanting to help.
Yeah.
What about that? Do you think that like makes it so? I don't know. It attracts so many people, former members, people who want to potentially be in it. What makes it so? I don't know.
What makes it what it is?
Yeah. What makes PCN so fun? Like what about it? Like.
Yeah, I think on just a surface level. It's a chance for you to spend time with your closest friends. Because people make like long-lasting friendships, just not even just through FASA, but just through PCN. Because it's a quote-unquote struggle. You're really like trying to find a balance between all your stuff with like some of your closest friends. But I think what keeps people coming back is the overall, it's like their why. It's like why they did it in the first place and why they wanted to continue. And essentially, PCN is meant to preserve culture. It's to preserve our culture and to make it more known within our community. Because what I thought was funny, and I learned this through Professor Hino, was that our school has one of the highest percentages of Filipino Americans. Yeah. Like we don't even have a lot of things that cater to us aside from FASA, PCN or FASA. Yeah. So this was like our chance to really not only, how do I say it, just learn about ourselves, but continue passing on that flame. Yeah. There's a flame that's there, you know?
Will of fire.
The fire, exactly. There's something there, the flame that comes from the passion of people wanting to learn more about themselves and wanting to spread that culture. So you don't want to be the person that's responsible for putting that flame out. Right. You know what I mean? So that's what keeps people coming back. I'm surprised that there's even alumni that are coming back and their last PCN was years ago, and they're coming back to teach it just because they want these people to learn about it, because they themselves have benefited from it just as much as we are benefiting from it now. Like, this is one crazy story. I know there's this one dance we have this year. It's called July, and it's a storytelling dance that revolves around an arranged marriage, but the overall story behind it is just kind of not necessarily reunion, but just doing whatever you can to find the one you love, or like doing things that you can for the people that you love. And one of my main cast members, she's actually the leading lady, Nikki Montez, at her internship, she told us a story. She was somewhere, I forgot exactly the details. She had met someone who was actually in CSUN FASA years ago and was a soloist for that exact dance. Wow. And the co-soloist is now his wife. So, really? Yeah, so I was like, dang. Wow. So, you know, people are having these like almost life-changing experiences just through participating in something that they thought was so small in college. Yeah. It becomes such a big part of their life. So what more when you have that knowledge as an alumni, as a veteran, why not pass on that knowledge or that experience to the people after you? Yeah. So.
Dude, to be perfectly honest, I remember I took some video of the dances last year. I showed my parents. I was so proud. Wow, this is what they're doing. Yeah. And I walked out, man, I feel like this is so cool. I'm Filipino. This is my ancestors here. Yeah. I just felt like this connection that this is, you know, I mean, I was born in the Philippines, but I didn't know nothing of the dances. I saw the tinikling. That's my favorite dance.
Oh yeah, that's a proud favorite.
to me, it's just, it involves a perfect timing, syncing with like the bamboo and your feet going in and out of them. Yeah. What's to me, I think the risk factor is if you mess up, you know, you're gonna get hurt.
Oh yeah, we always call it whenever tinikling practices, it's like smash your ankles time. just for fun, you know, because that's just what happens. It just happens.
I mean, looking from it, it's kind of sadistic. Like, it's a game. If you get hit, you get hit, and those things go full force. There's timing, not also timing, but there's dance. So I have so much respect for all those dances, especially that one. But just this cultural connection, you know, the way y'all put it together, it's so authentic, you know.
It's funny you bring up timing too. What a lot of people don't know, and I thought it was obvious, is that for all the cultural dances, we have live instrumentalists. Yeah, they're actually on the side. So do you mind if I go into like what the suites are? Please. All right. So the dances are essentially broken into 5 cultural suites and then 1 modern suite. So the 5 cultural suites are all a representation of the different regions of the Philippines. First, we have the Barrio Suite, which is the collection of dances that everyone kind of just knows are Filipino dances. So there's like tinikling or like sayaw sa bangko with the benches. Right. So everyone just kind of knows that those are the Filipino dances. There's the Maria Clara Suite, which is not necessarily regional, but it's definitely, it comes from regions that were subject to Spanish colonization, because a lot of their dances take a lot of inspiration from Spanish dances, Spanish dress. And those are really like the romantic type dances, the courtship kind of dances, and they really kind of just emphasize the beauty of like the Filipino culture, regardless of it being a subject to colonization.
Right.
And then there is the lumad dances, or they're formerly known as the ethnic dances, but we call them lumad, and lumad is actually a Visayan term for people of the land. And these are dances that represent the different indigenous peoples throughout the Philippines. And these dances are they're storytelling dances. And I'm not saying that all the other dances aren't storytelling, but they are dances that tell a story about a certain concept, a specific concept, maybe protection, reunion, voyaging, stuff like that. And then there's the Moro Suite. It was formerly known as a Muslim suite, but we call it the Moro Suite. And it focuses more on the people of the southern region of the Philippines, who had already converted to the Islamic faith before on bringing up Catholicism. And it's just to emphasize that Islamic culture. There's like a lot of inspiration from Islamic culture in those dances, even down, especially to the dress. They have like costumes that like shield their eyes, or even like cover the heads of the women. And then those are usually the regal dances, or they're almost of royalty. And then the last one is the mountain suite, or we call it the Cordillera suite, and it's focusing more on the people in the northern region of the Philippines and central Luzon. And those are a lot of those are based off of the people's livelihood, of the people who live in the mountains. So it would be stories about harvest, or about giving thanks to what they have, or just about the people in general.
Right.
So that's like what our piecing consists of. And then there's the modern suite, which is like our modern like hip hop or contemporary dance, and that's what makes our PCN so unique. There's so many different dances, so many different suites. And what surprised me too is that I thought every school did every suite. They don't.
Yeah.
I went to a collab, which is kind of like where a bunch of different Southern California Filipino American Student Associations go and meet up. They had this workshop on like the dances behind PCN, and then they had us raise our hands like, oh, raise your hand if your school does this suite. And I was like, wait, what? Like I thought everyone like just does every suite. Apparently, like certain schools only do like maybe up to 3 suites. I thought it was just the norm for everyone to do every single suite. And I'm just like, I think it's cool that every school does their own thing, but I think it'd be even cooler if everyone had the chance or the time or like the resources to do every suite.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn about the different regions. And then down to the whole live instrumentalist, we have Rondalia, which is the stringed instrument ensemble. And then we have the percussion. I can't remember their name, I feel so bad, but they're part of like Kayamanan ng Lahi too. And the string instrument ensemble, they usually play for dances in the Barrio and Maria Clara suite. So that's why whenever people think, oh, they're not, it's like a recording and they're just playing with it, like no, it's all live. And I think that's what helps make the dances look so clean and so perfect, aside from the fact that it's a lot of practice. The dancers can, they can fix what they're doing based on what they hear from the live instrumentalist, and the live instrumentalist can adapt to what the dancers are doing.
Right.
So it's a lot of like back and forth. There's even practices where we invite them to come so we can play with the live instruments. And then the percussion parts are usually for the last 3 suites, the Cordillera, Moro, and Lumad. And it's so cool because even in their drums, even in the percussion instruments, there's so much culture in it. There's even like a myth, not a myth, but it's just like a superstition that there's a set of drums, they're called the gulintang, and it's like, they're like gongs that are on this like wooden thing. And you're not supposed to step over them.
Oh.
Like you're never just supposed to step over them, just always step around it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so what I really liked about that is that aside from the dances already being like a shock factor, it's like, oh my god, these are such intricate, beautiful dances. People are like, there's live instrumentalists on the side too, and it's so cool because sometimes during practices or even during the actual show, we're like so focused on like watching them play that sometimes we forget our cues for like half a second, and we're like, oh god. Yeah, it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
I know I went into the whole details of the dances, but I feel like that's a lot of what people don't know about it.
Yeah, no, I have no idea.
Yeah, people are just expecting, oh, technically, and it's gonna be super cool.
Yeah.
So,
wow. I mean, I do remember last year there was different regions.
yeah.
But I had no idea like the intricacy and how deep y'all go. I mean, this is wow. I have nothing but admiration for that.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I'm just soaking all
You're
this in.
absorbing
Like,
it.
wow. Jeez.
And it's cool because there's even people of older generations that are watching that never even knew that was a dance. Like never knew that was part of what Filipino culture is, because from what they know, all the pretty dances or
Right.
the show-stopping dances.
And that's great. You can
Yeah.
also educate elder Filipinos.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can like, oh, that's how it's really done. Like they
Yeah.
respect. That's a respect thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. Wow. And also, I think the reason why maybe y'all do all like 5 suites, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have 33 years. You're done.
Oh yeah.
You know, support the community here, the Filipino community in San Fernando Valley alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. You know, FASA's going on for 33 years. I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a big Filipino community out here. You know, Panorama, Van Nuys, even Northridge. You know, now I'm thinking of Filipino food. I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel that every time I practice, we're thinking about like, dang, I really want sisig or something to like feed us. And it's funny I bring that up too, because one of my close friends, she's actually like my hotting in the club, or like my idol. Her name's Kirby Ortego. Her parents were actually of the generation that started CSUN FASA here. And then there was one time where we had a CSUN, like it was a FASA or a PCN picnic where we had actually invited parents to come out and see what we're doing, because a lot of the time what parents see is that we're just spending a lot of our hours hanging out and they don't really know what's going on, and they're like, why are you spending all these late hours doing this and that? And then last year was the first year that we had that.
That's good.
Yeah, and they actually saw what we were doing, and it was so cool because we had parents doing dances with their kids.
Wow.
And then like they were just really seeing what we were doing. And then my friend Kirby, her parents, and they were talking, they're like, wow, when we had first started this, we were only doing tinikling, and now you guys are doing all these things. So it really just, it kind of just shows how much it's changed, but it's changed in a good way.
Yeah.
You know, so it shows parents like what they're doing isn't just, you know, playing around, messing around with their friends, partying.
Yeah. There's that meme, was like, what my parents think I'm doing,
Yeah,
what I'm actually
exactly.
doing, you know, like expectations, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I do recall, I was at the Spam Showcase the last one you had.
Yes.
There was that video,
Mm.
I think Kirby and her dad was in it, and I was like, whoa, that's so crazy that your dad was intergenerational.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's so crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
like, just I can't imagine how the founders see it now. I mean, they're all so close friends.
Yeah, they are.
And like, see what's evolved to 33 years later. That's a
Yeah.
legacy.
It really is a legacy.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you bring up intergenerational, because that's a big part of our script too. Like, Dom and I had noticed that, you know, the whole issue, or not issue, but the whole topic is mental health. And it was actually something I thought of when I had gone back home that summer. And it was like, everything was cool, everything was the same with my family, but, you know, I knew that my parents were going through, like, mental hardship and financial hardship. And it was that same semester that I was, like, struggling with, oh, do I want to switch my major, do I want to switch my career? And then that's when it, like, clicked. That's when I was like, wow, these experiences are intergenerational. So that's why I wanted to bring up that, in the script, things that we see we're both focusing mainly on ourselves, like as young adults, but like our parents or everyone that came before us, even our ancestors, experienced a similar struggle. They just experienced it differently.
Yeah.
So in the case of our script, mental health is experienced beyond decades, beyond like centuries. So
awesome.
Even more so with, you know, just FASA or PCN as an event, it's something that brings people together. It's a great way for us to bring not only the dances, the cultural aspect, or like the things that we could show to the people, which they're attracted to dancing and the stage ensembles and stuff like that. It's cool that older generations can see that, you know, we're experiencing the same thing, experiencing the same dedication to the craft as they did years ago, but even through the script, they're seeing that there's a parallel between their struggles as a young adult, their struggles as an adult, and us as like their kids, as their, you know, children, their nieces and nephews.
That's so cool. Wow, it's like a whole bonding experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So, do you have any shout outs?
Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
So first of all, shout out number one to Dominic Argana. Like first we started out just, you know, we were just friends in FASA.
Yeah.
We were just doing stuff on board, and the fact that he actually reached out to me and really thought like, hey, I think you'd be a good fit. And like it's just opened so many different avenues to things that I never thought I'd be able to do. And and really opening up this platform and really helping me move forward in my new career, in my new major. So shout out to Dom Morgana, and like that dude he is working so hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard for him to remember that. So shout out to him. Also shout out to my usual suspects crew, Kirby, Isaac, Francisco, Dan, Rose. Those are I've met my closest friends through FASA, and that's who they are. Also, shout out to my mom, my dad. Y'all are supporting me through anything, even though, you know, it's not necessarily what you want me to do. Support, that's what I need. And then my siblings and my boyfriend Glenn for being so supportive during this whole process. Sometimes I know I'm like whiny, but you know, you're there, you're still there. And my roommates for knowing that all those late nights I come home are worth it in the end when you guys come out to see my show.
So a special guest on the PCN is a musician, right?
Yes.
MC Zuko.
Oh yeah, MC Zuko. Oh, Gio, I love that guy. You know what's crazy? Gio, I actually met when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Went to your same high school?
No, which is even crazier. He's actually friend. You know, I know Clad.
Yeah.
They were in the same friend group, and then I had actually met him when I went to like a birthday party of Clad's or something in high school. And then I never know we would go to the same college, be part of the same like club. Yeah. I even noticed he was in that same class I took in Professor Kino's, and I was like, what the heck, Gio? Yeah, I love that guy.
It's funny, he was my first guest.
Was he really?
I had Cloud on the show.
That. Oh my god, me.
Yeah, it's so small world.
It really is.
Yeah, you know, he's a very talented individual. Cloud is too in photography.
Oh yeah.
I'm just stoked to see what he's doing, because he's an alumni.
Yeah.
And to see him come back is really cool.
I'm actually really excited to see what he can put onto stage. He's actually a soloist this year.
Is he gonna rap?
No,
bars?
Not imagine. But he's a dance soloist this year.
Okay.
And it was just for a dance that we felt that he really identified with the last year. So it is only fitting to have him be a soloist for the dances.
Firebending dance?
Imagine. No.
That's cool. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Wow, such a small world. Okay, so last but not least, when is PCN? Where is it at? Location, times, tickets? Is it free?
Yes, so first and foremost, it's a free show.
Free show?
And it's been free all 33 years. And it's going to be on April 21st, which is a Saturday, at 2 and 7 p.m. We'll have a link available.
Okay.
But tickets are available online for reservation. You can reserve up to 5 tickets. It'll be held at the Plaza del Sol Performance Center on the CSUN campus.
Okay. 2 o'clock and 7. So 2 shows.
Yeah, we have 2 shows.
How long did the shows last? It was one show. 3 hours? 2 hours?
We're trying to keep it under 3 hours. Because in the past, it's been very, very long.
Yeah.
So our goal is to try to keep it short, or not keep it like too short, but you know, keep the audience interested for the whole amount of time that they're in there. But yeah, it's generally maybe like 2.5 hours.
That's a question. Why do 2 shows instead of 1? I mean, like, it's bad enough you do 1 day. But like, let's do it again. Like,
you know, I honestly don't know. Yeah. Like, just for as long as I've been in the club, it's always been 2 shows. And they always say like, oh yeah, 2 p.m., oh 7 p.m. And I'm like, what?
Such a high demand, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Because, I mean, there's one, I don't know why they made it 2 shows, but from what I see, or how I see it, 7 p.m. is usually when like people's friends come out, or like people from other schools come out. That's what I've seen. And then at the 2 p.m. it's mainly for like families, even though they both go to both shows. Yeah. My sister went to both shows last year, so I guess it just depends. I guess it's to make the show more available to different people.
Wow, the fact that y'all do it twice in the same day, in the same like kind of time. So say at 2 and to 5, like a 2-hour break, and do it all over again.
At 7. Yeah, exactly.
I can understand if it's like, okay, we have one this Saturday and then one next Saturday, but the same day.
Yeah.
That is some stamina, dedication, hard work that we all admire and respect.
It's really cool though, because I think the 7 p.m. we're still going off on this like 2 p.m. show high, and we're just like, okay, we did it already once, we could do it again. So that's why we always have 2 shows, I guess.
I went to the 2 p.m. show. I think the whole thing was amazing for me, but the one dance that really got me was, I don't know what it was exactly, but it was one person. There's multiple tuniklings going on at the same time.
Oh yeah, that was called Sari Manok. That one is crazy.
And
they have the 2 X formation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What tripped me out was not once did I see the person look down.
Oh yeah, they really emphasize that.
Ow.
Like you cannot look down.
I want to look down, but I guess you have such a timely in your head that when you look down, your vision kind of messes up with your like your gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like you see something and like oh crap.
Yeah, I was always like surprised by that too because I've never done a dance with the tinkling sticks and I'm too scared to do
Yeah, me
dances
neither.
like that.
Oh my god, no.
And it's just like because I know like you get hurt, like you end up
yeah.
getting injuries, and a lot of my close friends were in that dance too. One of my close friends, Francisco, was actually a soloist in that dance, and it was like, how do you manage to move your feet and hands differently and also still go on rhythm?
Yeah.
And he's like, what makes it even harder is that like sometimes the tappers, because you know sometimes with rhythm or like just drumming, sometimes you just go off. Like sometimes the tappers don't match the drummers, and it's just like, oh my god, so who do you listen to? And it's really just, there are some times where people step on the sticks on stage, but no one notices it because they just still keep going. And they, yeah, right?
I pray for everyone's well-being and safety in
that's
the
crazy.
practice and the shows. It just, I can't believe it. Like, you know, like when you're rapping, someone goes off beat, okay.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get physically injured.
Yeah.
You technically, you get off beat. You know,
And,
so,
like,
oh my god, it just blows my mind. It's just, I'm so enamored, like, watching that. It's like, oh my god, like, bro, I'm Filipino.
Yeah,
You must get a
that's part of.
Filipino.
No, I definitely felt that too. I think my first year, I was really only in behind the scenes. Like I wasn't really attracted to the limelight. But then when you watch it from the side, and you're like, oh dang, that's so.
That's
aside
scary.
from it, yeah, being so cool, you're like, dang, that's. I like I can trace what I come from to these type of dances, or like the messages through these dances can apply to me or my family or my friends. So I think I get the whole idea of being enamored by the
It's
whole
like,
thing, the whole
I'm just
process.
drawn, man. It's like the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
I
It's
got
just
the
like,
Holy Ghost. I got the Holy Ghost at this Christian. Ay, nako. Naksaman. Alright. Okay. Whoa. See what just
like,
happened?
just like what super Filipino.
Yeah, I just want to see we're Filipino. Alright, is there a PCN social media? Like, is there an event page? You just have like an Instagram, or you can follow like the FASA, CSUN Instagram?
Yeah, so our Instagram is at CSUN FASA. You get all the updates on there. And that's also where we'll be posting promo photos as well as some like video clips. We also have an event page on Facebook. It's just the Nandito Ako, or it's called CSUN FASA PCN 33rd, or 33rd PCN Nandito Ako. I'll be sure to like.
I like
provide the
that.
link.
That means 33rd PCN, I'm here.
Yes,
Right? Oh,
Nandito
wow.
Ako. Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the whole naming process of that. We never even came up with a name until this semester because we just couldn't think of a name that was fitting, and I think it came humorously in a way, just because our friend, my friend Raquel San Diego, she was also like she was my stage managing head last year. She was like, oh, like there's a song, or there's this like saying like Nandito Ako, I'm here. And then when we had like announced the name to the whole club, they were like, oh my god, I don't know if you know the song Nandito Ako. There's a song made popular by Lea Salonga called Nandito Ako, and everyone was just singing it, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is the title.
Awesome. Is that what all Filipinos say when they check it on Facebook? Nandito Ako.
Nandito Ako, you see that in my post?
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like a lot of family back in the Philippines are wilder to Facebook.
Yeah.
I think it's great just because it's a way to communicate for free.
Yeah, exactly.
Before that, it was the calling cards and all that
Oh, I know that.
Skype. Oh my god. All right, so thank you very much, Charline. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
of course.
I loved it.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see y'all at PCN or PCN.
PCN.
PCN. Oh my god, yo, PCN. I'll see y'all at PCN. I can't wait. I'll be there 7 p.m.
Oh, nice.
I guess church up like it's just.
Oh yeah, 7
highs
p.m.
there.
is definitely a different vibe.
So if y'all have work in the afternoon, make it at 7 p.m. If y'all work in the evening, make it 2 p.m.
Mhm.
You really have no excuse not to go.
Exactly.